He never died. He never suffered. He had no burial. One day, he simply disappeared. Enoch walked with God in an age drowning in violence, corruption, and moral decay. While the world chased darkness, he chose a path of light. While multitudes forgot the Creator, he clung to him with unwavering faith. His steps echoed obedience, his silence spoke of intimacy, and his life became a quiet rebellion against the fall of mankind. He didn't preach to crowds. He didn't build altars. He simply walked faithfully, consistently, with God. And then, without warning, he was no more. Taken. Not by death, but by the hand of the Almighty Himself. In a world that had forgotten how to listen, Enoch became a whisper of eternity. A man who lived differently, and because of that, never saw death. Mentioned only briefly in Genesis, Enoch's life holds one of the most profound mysteries in all of Scripture. The Bible tells us, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." Genesis 5 verse 24. But pause for a moment. What does it really mean to walk with God? It doesn't say Enoch merely believed in God. It doesn't highlight his sacrifices or religious observance. It says he walked with him, as if they shared life, step by step, as close companions. So let me ask you, who are you walking with? Most people walk with stress, with fear about tomorrow, with constant pressure, anxiety, or regret. Some are weighed down by guilt, others by uncertainty. Enoch chose differently. He walked with God, and that choice transformed everything. In a decaying world, Enoch stood out. While society chased violence and selfish gain, he lived with quiet purpose. He wasn't a prophet with signs and wonders. He was simply a man who chose to align his life with heaven, and that made all the difference. And the truth is, that same path is open to you. Just imagine, what if you started each day talking to God, before checking your phone? What if your actions were guided by peace instead of panic? Instead of living in reaction, what if you moved with direction, like someone following a divine compass? That was Enoch. And what he discovered wasn't out of reach. It's an invitation for anyone weary of the superficial and yearning for the eternal. But Enoch's story doesn't stop in Genesis. Ancient texts, like the Book of Enoch, describe visions of heaven, cosmic secrets, even the judgment of fallen angels. How could someone so humble access such mysteries? Perhaps because true revelation isn't found in formulas or philosophies, but in daily intimacy with the Creator. Here's something to reflect on. Say your life is in chaos, family tensions, financial strain, bad news from the doctor, or one closed door after another. Most of us react. We rush. We try to fix it. But what if, like Enoch, you paused? What if, instead of moving in fear, you walked with God, through prayer, stillness, and trust? No, it doesn't mean your problems vanish. But your perspective shifts, and often, that's the first miracle. The world desperately needs more people like Enoch. People who don't chase applause or approval, but pursue purpose. People who aren't satisfied with knowing about God, but hunger to walk with Him. People who choose to be light, even when everything around them grows darker. And maybe you, yes, you watching this right now, have felt it too. That quiet emptiness. That deep sense that nothing in this world truly satisfies. That there has to be more. If so, you're not alone. Enoch's story is more than ancient history, it's a divine invitation. A reminder that it is possible to live in deep connection with God. Not like the rest of the world. Not by its standards. But like someone who knows their path, because they're not walking it alone. And here comes the most powerful part. What happened to Enoch wasn't just a reward for his devotion. It was a prophetic symbol of what's still to come. His disappearance wasn't random, it pointed to a future reality. Want to know how his life connects to the end times? Keep watching, because what you're about to hear may shake the way you see the world. Long before the flood, before Noah's Ark was even imagined, centuries before Moses received the law, there lived a generation drowning in darkness. Humanity was growing in number, but also in wickedness, in violence, and in separation from the divine. It was in that spiritual wilderness that Enoch emerged. He was a descendant of Seth, the son given to Adam and Eve in place of Abel. A lineage rooted in spiritual significance, but not necessarily embraced by society. The culture around Enoch was far from supportive of faith. It was proud, self-centered, and hostile to anything sacred. Sound familiar? If you're alive today, you know exactly what that feels like. We often think we need ideal conditions to grow spiritually, a peaceful environment, the right people, the perfect church. But Enoch had none of that. He became a light in the middle of chaos. And that's one of his greatest lessons: you don't need perfect circumstances to walk with God. You just need to choose. According to Jewish tradition, Enoch started out just like anyone else. But something changed when his son Methuselah was born. The Bible says, "And Enoch lived 65 years, and begot Methuselah." Then Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah, Genesis 5 verses 21 to 22. Why did that moment shift his entire life? Many scholars believe that becoming a father opened Enoch's eyes to eternity, to purpose, to legacy. Maybe you've experienced something similar. Sometimes it's a child, a crisis, a diagnosis, a deep loss, something that stirs us, wakes us up to something beyond ourselves. The difference is, Enoch didn't ignore that inner call. He responded. And his transformation didn't come in one dramatic event. It happened quietly. Daily. A decision here. A moment of prayer there. Step by step. That's the hidden truth. Real spiritual change rarely starts with fireworks. It begins in the routine. In silence. In small choices made consistently. Think about this. Every day, Enoch chose to talk with God. To listen. To walk alongside him, not as a priest, not to impress others, but because he needed that connection. It was life itself to him. What would your life look like if you did the same? I'm not talking about hours of ritual. I'm talking about 5 genuine minutes. A real conversation with God, as if speaking to a friend. And you'll notice, something starts to shift. Peace replaces panic. Clarity replaces confusion. Presence replaces loneliness. Here's the truth that changes everything. When you choose to walk with God in a world that's moving in the opposite direction, heaven notices. You're no longer invisible. You become someone with a mission. With a divine purpose. That's what happened to Enoch. He didn't just grow spiritually, he became a messenger of something far greater. Because his walk wasn't just personal, it was prophetic. He carried a divine message. One that still speaks today. Do you want to know what that message was? What warning Enoch was given for humanity? Get ready, because this next part of the story reaches into the heavens and shakes the earth. Many people think Enoch's story ends with a single verse in Genesis. But few know there's a powerful, ancient text that bears his name, the Book of Enoch. Though not included in the standard biblical canon, this book was cherished by early believers and preserved in Ethiopian tradition for centuries. But this isn't just any ancient writing. It's filled with visions of the heavenly realm, revelations of divine judgment, and startling accounts of fallen angels in cosmic battles. It's unsettling, because it reveals things many would rather ignore. And that raises the question, why was it left out of Scripture? What truths does it hold that made it so controversial, or perhaps, so priceless? One of the most astonishing revelations in the Book of Enoch is the account of 200 angels, called the Watchers, who descended to earth. Their motive wasn't holy. They craved the daughters of men. They took them as wives and fathered a hybrid race, the Nephilim, violent giants who defiled creation itself. This isn't mythology or fantasy. It's a profound spiritual narrative that seeks to explain how the world deviated so drastically from God's original design. But Enoch wasn't just a passive observer. He was chosen by God to act as an intermediary between heaven and earth. He didn't just hear about what was happening, he was taken into the heavens to see it. There, he was shown the realms of the righteous, the prisons prepared for the fallen angels, and the destiny of humanity. Imagine it, an ordinary man ascending to celestial realms, watching divine justice unfold, and documenting it all. It sounds like something out of a movie, but to Enoch, it was reality. And what does that mean for you? Everything. Because the heart of Enoch's message is this: nothing is hidden. Not even the most powerful beings can escape the justice of God. Corruption, no matter how high it climbs, has a day of reckoning. And in every generation, God raises up someone to speak the truth. Someone to warn, to guide, to lead. That someone might be you, right where you are. In your family. In your job. In your quiet corner of the world. The Book of Enoch also speaks of a figure called the Chosen One, a being exalted by God, destined to judge the world with righteousness. Does that sound familiar? Many theologians recognize here an early glimpse of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. It's as if Enoch, long before Bethlehem, was already declaring that a Redeemer would one day come to set things right. And the book goes even deeper. It speaks of the cycles of time, the movement of the stars, the rhythms of nature, and how everything operates under divine order. In other words, this world isn't random. It's not chaos. It's design. Even when things feel out of control, God's hand is not absent. You, even in your moments of confusion or insignificance, are woven into something much larger than yourself. Now let's be honest. How many times have you looked around and felt that the world is upside down? That evil seems to go unpunished? That injustice has become the norm? Enoch felt the same. He saw it firsthand. And through his writings, he declared a truth many are afraid to hear: the day is coming when all will be made right. But until that day, those who walk with God must walk with courage, eyes fixed on heaven, feet grounded in purpose. That's the real value of the Book of Enoch. Not as a mysterious relic, but as a spiritual trumpet blast. A wake-up call. A challenge to live with conviction, to see beyond the surface, and to remember that God sees, God acts, and God restores. Ignore this message, and you may drift into darkness. Embrace it, and you may become like Enoch, awake while the world sleeps. But the story isn't over. Because those angels, the Watchers, didn't go unpunished. God responded with a judgment like no other. Do you want to know what happened to them? Stay with me, because what comes next is one of the most dramatic scenes in all of spiritual history. Until now, we knew that Earth was corrupted. But the Book of Enoch reveals something deeper. Not only did humanity rebel, even celestial beings, those created to serve and protect, turned against their purpose. These beings were the Watchers. And their story is as ancient as it is disturbing. Who were they? Angels assigned to observe, to guard, to guide. But they deviated. Their gaze turned toward the forbidden. And that desire, unchecked and undisciplined, ignited a cosmic rebellion. Let us descend and take wives for ourselves, they said. And so they did. The unimaginable became reality. The result? a fracture in the fabric of creation. Their offspring, the Nephilim, filled the earth with bloodshed, oppression, and violence. The natural order was disrupted. DNA was altered. The earth, the animals, the skies, all groaned under the weight of this corruption. And here, my friend, lies a sobering truth. When we break the boundaries God set in love, the consequences ripple far beyond us. It doesn't just affect you. It spreads. It wounds your home, disturbs your relationships, contaminates your peace, and disrupts generations. So many today live like those watchers. They know what's right, but justify what's wrong. It's just one step. It's not a big deal. But that one compromise becomes a habit. That habit becomes a mindset. And before they realize it, the collapse has already begun. Modern examples? Absolutely. Think about the man who decides to be unfaithful just once and ends up shattering his family. Or the professional who accepts a small bribe only to be consumed by a cycle of corruption that destroys everything he built. Or the young woman who enters a toxic relationship knowing it pulls her away from her purpose. It all begins with a single step, but can end in a spiritual abyss. Just like the watchers. So, what did God do? Did he remain silent? Did he tolerate it? Quite the opposite. Heaven trembled. God heard the cries of the innocent, the pain of the righteous, and he acted. But not in a way anyone expected. He didn't thunder from the clouds or send fire. Instead, he called Enoch. He brought him into the heights of heaven and gave him a message, a sentence to deliver to the very angels who had rebelled. Now imagine this, a human standing before celestial beings, saying, God has seen what you've done. He will no longer hear your prayers. You are condemned. It sounds unbelievable, but it happened. And it teaches us something vital. When you walk with God, you carry an authority that is greater than anything the enemy can throw at you. Enoch wasn't feared for his power, he was respected for his connection. And in today's world, where spiritual confusion masquerades as light, only those rooted in God can truly discern truth from deception. The judgment that followed was severe. The watchers were chained in eternal prisons. A global reset was set in motion, the flood. But in the midst of chaos, one thing remained, a voice, a legacy, a family line that carried hope. Enoch's obedience preserved something sacred. His lineage would one day produce Noah, the one chosen to survive the flood. That alone reveals a powerful truth. Your obedience today can become the salvation of your generation tomorrow. Now pause and reflect. Is there an area of your life that's drifting from God's design? Maybe a secret compromise, a hidden sin, something that mixes truth with falsehood? The Watcher's story is a wake-up call. A warning born out of love. If you don't stop the fall, you may not be able to stop the consequences. But even in judgment, there is always redemption. Enoch saw it. He saw that there was a plan. That one day, the chosen one, the Son of Man, would come to restore all things. Want to know how Enoch foresaw Jesus centuries before Bethlehem? Then stay close, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see the Bible forever. Imagine having a vision of the future, not just your future, but the destiny of the entire world. Kingdoms rising and falling. Wars. Injustice. Redemption. The coming of the Messiah. The final judgment. That's what Enoch experienced. He wasn't just a man of faith. He was a prophet who saw the end from the beginning. In one of his most breathtaking visions, Enoch saw a radiant figure seated on a throne of glory. He called him the Chosen One, the Son of Man. This figure would judge kings, expose corruption, and reward the righteous. A majestic being, terrifying to the wicked, beloved by the humble. Scholars across centuries agree, this is one of the earliest images of Jesus Christ in all spiritual literature. What's remarkable is that these visions happened thousands of years before Christ was born. It's as if Enoch saw a divine preview, a trailer, of the most significant moments in redemptive history. And more than that, he understood them. He documented them. He passed them down as both warning and promise. The book describes a time when injustice will rule, faith will be mocked, and the righteous will suffer. Sound familiar? It should. Because we are living in those days. But the prophecy doesn't end in despair. The chosen one will return. He will restore what was lost, silence evil, and vindicate those who remain faithful. And if that prophecy is unfolding before our eyes, then our lives must reflect the urgency of the hour. So what does this mean for you? Everything. You can no longer afford to live as if life is random. You can't keep ignoring the signs. God is still speaking, just like he spoke to Enoch. And now he's looking for voices willing to rise above the noise, willing to live differently, courageously, eternally. One of the most profound parts of Enoch's visions was the flood, yes, but also the judgment of angels, the fate of the unjust, and the hope of restoration. Because God never destroys just to destroy. He clears away corruption so that healing can come. He removes what is broken to prepare a place for what is whole. Let's bring this home. Have you ever faced a season where it seemed like everything was falling apart? A lost job. A betrayal. Doors slamming shut. Sometimes we call it punishment. But maybe, just maybe, like in Enoch's visions, God is tearing down what can't hold your future so he can build something eternal. Another striking moment, Enoch saw heavenly books, where every deed, every thought, every secret was recorded. A sobering image. What kind of life are we writing in those pages? What legacy are our choices leaving in eternity? And then, there was this, a vision of a special generation. A group of people who, like Enoch, would never taste death. Who would be preserved in the final days. Who would walk with God when the world turned its back. Could that be you? Could you be part of that remnant? One thing is certain, Enoch wasn't insane. He wasn't naive. He wasn't irrelevant. He was ahead of his time. A man who refused to live only for what he could see. A man who dared to ask the deeper questions. And his life still echoes through eternity with one message: wake up. There is more. There is a design. And you have a place in it. And just when you think the story ends, Enoch surprises us again. Not with more visions, but with something even greater, his lifestyle. How he walked. How he listened. How he lived between two worlds, natural and celestial. And in the next part, we'll uncover how you, too, can begin to walk like that, right here, right now. So don't go anywhere, what's coming next is pure spiritual gold. When we hear that Enoch walked with God, it sounds poetic, almost mythical. But what does that actually mean? Did he float above the ground? Speak only in divine riddles? Fast for 40 days in a cave? Not at all. Enoch was fully human, just like you. He had a routine. He faced decisions. He battled temptations. What made him different wasn't what he avoided, it was who he chose to walk with. Walking with God doesn't mean living without mistakes. It means living with awareness. Aware of his presence, his guidance, his voice. Enoch didn't belong to any religious institution. He didn't have a temple to retreat to. What he had was something rare even today, a daily, living, and intimate relationship with the Creator. Picture this, Enoch waking up in the morning, not to stress over the weather or his crops, but to take a moment and talk to God. A simple prayer. A word of thanks. A request for guidance. And throughout his day, in the midst of ordinary tasks, he would pause to listen, to invite God into his thoughts, into his choices. It wasn't religion, it was friendship. And what about you? Is there room for that in your life? For many, God is the Sunday God or the emergency exit God. But for Enoch, he was constant, from Monday to Sunday, from home to field, from thought to action. That's what made him different. God doesn't want a performance, he wants a walk. With you. Right where you are. Enoch's strength wasn't perfection. It was consistency. His thoughts, words, and actions were aligned. That kind of integrity, so rare today, is what drew divine favor. If you're a parent, walking with God means raising your children with love and truth. If you're young, it means holding to your identity when the world tries to reshape you. If you're a business owner, it means prospering without losing your soul. Walking with God is doing what's right, even when it's unpopular. Here's something beautiful. Enoch was the father of Methuselah, the man who lived longer than anyone else in history. Coincidence? Probably not. His legacy reached far. And here's the point, the way you live today leaves a silent imprint on those around you. Your family. Your friends. Your coworkers. What kind of legacy are you building? Another powerful principle in Enoch's life was silence. He knew how to listen. And today, we're surrounded by constant noise, notifications, headlines, distractions, opinions. But God speaks in the stillness. Try this, turn everything off for 10 minutes a day. Breathe. Listen. Open your heart. Read one verse. That small moment can start transforming your inner world. Enoch didn't just talk about justice, he lived it. He didn't sell out. He didn't stay quiet when things were wrong. He stood his ground. That kind of integrity is more needed now than ever. Because if we truly want to be light, we must be authentic. Not flawless, but honest. Not religious, but real. And because he walked with God, Enoch had something else, discernment. He saw what others couldn't. Not because he was paranoid, but because he was connected. If today you feel lost or confused, here's the first step, reconnect. Walk with God. In that journey, clarity returns. Peace is restored. Purpose is rediscovered. But don't miss this, Enoch didn't walk with God because he was afraid of punishment or obsessed with being spiritual. He did it out of love. Because it fulfilled him. It gave him direction. It gave him life. And you know how his story ends? It doesn't. He never died. God simply took him. Think about that. A life so full of God, that not even death had permission to interrupt it. And that wasn't just a poetic ending, it was a message. A prophetic act. Because the day Enoch was taken, heaven declared something loud and clear: those who walk with God can be spared from judgment, from decay, even from death. Enoch was the first man to experience what would later be promised to many, the rapture. If God did it once, why wouldn't he do it again? In the New Testament, Paul writes that we who are alive and remain will be caught up, in the twinkling of an eye, 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 17. Sound familiar? It's exactly what happened to Enoch. He's not just a figure of the past, he's a glimpse into the prophetic future. And this isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to inspire you. Because it means that your life can be so aligned with heaven, so grounded in eternal purpose, that even death loses its grip. In a world obsessed with anti-aging creams, surgeries, supplements, and denial of mortality, God offers something greater, eternal life. But let's get practical. What exactly did Enoch do to be taken like that? What was his formula? There was none. Just the same simple truth we've seen all along: he walked with God. Every day. In the ordinary. In joy and pain. It wasn't occasional spirituality, it was daily communion. Today, many people want the blessings of the kingdom without the king. They want heaven without intimacy. They want to be taken, but they're not walking. And that's not how it works. Enoch was taken because he already belonged to heaven. His heart was already elsewhere. So now I ask you, where's your heart? Who are you walking with? This event also reveals something beautiful: God delights in intimacy. He didn't take Enoch as punishment, but as a reward. As if saying, I can't wait any longer. Come with me. It's like when you're so happy to be with a friend that you don't want them to leave. God wanted Enoch so close. He brought him straight to heaven. How amazing is that? And take note, this event wasn't isolated. Jesus, in the New Testament, also ascended to heaven. Elijah was taken up in a chariot of fire. And according to Scripture, there will be a generation that will be raptured without seeing death. All of this points to one truth: death is not the end for those who walk with God. It's only a transition. So, what does Enoch's story say to us today? That living a life radically surrendered to heaven is not only possible, it's rewarded. That faith isn't just for saving you in the end, but for transforming you now. And that if you choose to walk with God, you may be closer to heaven than you think. But there's more. Because Enoch's translation wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something deeper. His story leaves us with a powerful question: are we living prepared to be taken? And even more, are we leaving footprints for others to find that same path? Stay with me, because we're about to explore why Enoch's story is so relevant for our time, and how his messages echo louder today than ever before. It may have been thousands of years since Enoch walked the earth, but his message has never been more urgent than it is today. We live in an age of speed, noise, shallow distractions, and trendy spirituality. And in the middle of all this chaos, Enoch's life rises like a silent but powerful voice: there is another way. Enoch lived surrounded by moral collapse, spiritual apathy, and widespread corruption, the same storm we see sweeping across our world now. In his day, values were inverted, violence was normalized, and the connection with God had nearly vanished. Sound familiar? The only difference is that today we have Wi-Fi, streaming services, and oat milk lattes. But at the core, the condition of the human heart remains unchanged, disconnected from the Creator. But here's the heart of the matter: Enoch wasn't shaped by his generation, he resisted it. He didn't blend in. He didn't conform. He chose a different path. And that's the invitation we have today. What if we stopped living on autopilot and started walking with intention? What if, instead of flowing with the current, we became like Enoch, a steady light in a flickering world? Take this into your world. You work in an environment where people cut corners, cheat, or waste time. Could you be a voice of integrity like Enoch? You're in a relationship that's slowly disconnecting you from your purpose. Do you have the courage to step in a new direction? You feel stuck in a routine that drains you. Can you look up and begin walking again, with God by your side? Enoch teaches us something rare and radical: live with eternity in mind. Most people live as if life ends at 80. All focus is on comfort, accumulation, appearance, and survival. But Enoch lifted his eyes to what can't be seen. And that gave him depth, peace, strength. What would your life look like if your decisions were made as if heaven was watching? Here's something simple but powerful. How are you using your time? Where do your best hours go? To scrolling? To endless debates? What if you gave just 15 minutes to read a proverb, speak a sincere prayer, or pause in gratitude? It may sound small, but repeated daily, it changes everything. That's how Enoch walked, not with big events, but with small, holy steps. And let's not forget, Enoch didn't need applause. He wasn't viral. He didn't have followers. But he was seen by God. And in the end, that's all that matters. In a world starving for validation, Enoch reminds us that the only approval worth pursuing is from the one who holds eternity. Enoch also lived to leave a legacy. He was a father, a prophet, a man whose life shaped the future. And the same is true for you. You don't need a platform. Your influence is already at work, in your home, your workplace, your circle. One conversation from you might awaken faith. One quiet act of obedience could ripple through generations. And maybe you're thinking, I could never live like that. I'm too flawed, too tired, too inconsistent. Let me tell you, Enoch wasn't born walking with God. He chose it. He started. And that first step led to a divine encounter. You can make that same choice today. Enoch's story is more than inspiration, it's proof that it's possible. Possible to live differently. Possible to stay faithful in chaos. Possible to walk with God even when the world forgets Him. And when you do, heaven notices. But this story goes further. Because as we move closer to a global spiritual turning point, Enoch's life becomes more than history, it becomes prophecy. Could his story be a foreshadowing of what's about to unfold? In Scripture, nothing is random. Every character is a thread in a larger pattern. Enoch is no exception. His walk with God, and the fact that he was taken without seeing death, makes him a prophetic symbol of the end times. Remember what Jesus said. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. Matthew 24 verse 37, and who came just before Noah? Enoch. That means Enoch's world was filled with corruption, violence, and spiritual rebellion, exactly like today. And in the midst of that, God reached down and took one man home. Now connect this with 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 17, then we who are alive and remain will be caught up, to meet the Lord in the air. That's not just theology, it's the continuation of Enoch's pattern. Enoch was the first to experience the rapture. Taken, transformed, preserved. And it wasn't because of fame or success. It was because of intimacy. Enoch wasn't taken because of deep theology or public ministry. He was taken because he walked faithfully, humbly, daily. The rapture won't be for the most followed, it will be for the most faithful. But this isn't about fear, it's about readiness. It's not about paranoia, it's about preparation. Enoch wasn't surprised when God called. He was already living as though heaven was home. And that's what made him ready. This also tells us something beautiful about God. He always protects his own before judgment. Before the flood, Enoch was taken. Before Sodom, Lot was rescued. Before the Great Tribulation, there will be a people, marked not by denomination, but by devotion. So how do we live like that today? Simple, start walking. Start choosing eternity over trends. Prayer over panic. Truth over comfort. Forgiveness over resentment. Lighten your grip on this world, so that when heaven calls, you can rise. And remember, Enoch wasn't just a dreamer. He was a prophet. He warned the world of judgment. He announced the fall of the fallen. And that same voice is needed today. We must walk with God, but also speak up for truth. With love, but with boldness. And if you're asking, am I ready? That's a beautiful sign. It means God is awakening your heart. Maybe you've grown cold, distracted, spiritually numb. But today, like Enoch, you can start again. One step, one choice, one day at a time. Because Enoch's life wasn't just a story. It was a message. His walk was a sermon. His disappearance, a promise. He reminds us, this world is not the end. There is more. And if you choose to walk like he did, you may be called like he was, taken, transformed, and preserved for something greater. But we're still not done. Because despite his greatness, Enoch never promoted himself. He didn't seek recognition. He didn't write a bestseller. He simply lived to please God. Do you want to know the true secret that sustained his entire journey? In the next section, we'll uncover the deepest spiritual essence of Enoch's life and how you can live it right now. Many people ask, what made Enoch so special? Why him and not someone else? What did God see in him that he chose to take him without letting him face death? The answer isn't in some hidden power or secret knowledge. It lies in something far deeper, more intimate, more human, the heart of Enoch. The Bible says that Enoch pleased God, Hebrews 11 verse 5. And how do you please God? Not with applause. Not with fame. Not with great achievements. You please God with a surrendered heart. With a life that says, Lord, I'm not perfect, but I want to obey you. I don't understand everything, but I want to walk with you. And that, my friend, changes everything. The secret of Enoch was his hunger for God. His daily pursuit. His genuine desire to know the Creator, beyond religion, beyond rituals. He wasn't a man of appearance, he was a man of essence. And that's exactly what God is still looking for today. People who don't fake their faith, but live it, even when no one is watching. Enoch had an obedient heart. He didn't argue with God. He didn't negotiate his will. If God said, walk, he walked. If God said, wait, he waited. That kind of simplicity is rare, but powerful. Because while the world complicates spirituality, Enoch reminds us that the essential thing is simply to love God and obey him. And how do we cultivate a heart like that today? Through small decisions. For example, choosing to forgive when you have reasons to hate. Closing a web page when no one is watching. Giving without expecting praise. Listening instead of always speaking. It's in those moments that character is shaped, that your heart becomes aligned with heaven. Enoch also had a humble heart. He didn't seek recognition. He wasn't interested in fame or becoming the center of attention. He simply wanted to walk with God. And in a world where everyone wants to be seen, to go viral, to be admired, Enoch stands as a radical contrast. His life quietly declares, you don't need fame to be eternal. You just need to be faithful. He also had a steadfast heart. Enoch wasn't swayed by the corruption of his time. He didn't trade truth for comfort. He didn't water down his message to fit the crowd. He stood firm. He resisted the current. He persevered. But this strength wasn't pride, it was conviction. It was the unshakable certainty of someone who knows who they are and who they belong to. Today, many live fractured lives, one thing on the outside, another on the inside. But Enoch was whole, honest, integrated. His life and his faith were one. That kind of coherence may be one of the greatest spiritual challenges of our generation. Because only a sincere heart can sustain a supernatural walk. And here's something beautiful: God never ignores a heart like that. In fact, He seeks it. He longs for it. He strengthens it. The eyes of the Lord search the whole earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16 verse 9, if your heart is like Enoch's, even if no one else sees it, God does. So if you've felt far, if you've drifted, grown cold, or lost your focus, this is your moment. Return to what matters. Speak to God like a child speaks to a loving father. Ask Him for a new heart, a heart that is soft, humble, surrendered. Because that is the kind of heart that opens the heavens. And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you and congratulate you. But don't leave just yet. Because in these last moments, we're going to bring it all together and extend a powerful invitation for you to walk with God too. Not just in theory, not just emotionally, but practically, daily, starting now. So, after everything we've uncovered, what remains? A man, thousands of years ago, walked with God. And then, he was gone. No goodbyes. No grave. No legacy of wealth or power. But he left something much greater, the echo of a life that pleased God. A man who didn't build an empire or write a bestseller, but whose footsteps were carved into eternity. Enoch wasn't a myth. He was real. Flesh and blood. He had questions. He had days of fatigue. He smiled. He struggled. But he made one decision that changed everything: to choose the eternal over the immediate, the invisible over the obvious, the sacred over the convenient. And here's the best part: if he could walk with God in a world drowning in darkness, so can you. If he could live with purpose, so can you live with intention. If he could hear God's voice, so can you learn to recognize it. If he could be taken to heaven without dying, then there is real hope for those who choose to walk by faith. This isn't a message for the perfect. It's a call to the willing, to the tired, the hungry, the searching, to those who know, deep down, they were born for more than just surviving, more than just existing, to those who want depth, who long for eternity. Maybe you, like Enoch, have wandered without direction. But today, right now, God is whispering to your soul, walk with me. Not later. Not when you have it all figured out. But now. Because walking with God doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a decision. With a simple yes. And if you're wondering, what do I do now? Here's something practical. Start setting aside sacred time. Talk to God like He's your best friend. Read His Word like every line was written for you. Surround yourself with people who are also walking upward. And above all, guard your heart. Not out of fear, but out of love. Relationship, not religion. Intimacy, not image. And never forget, God isn't looking for the famous, He's looking for the faithful. He's not interested in your spiritual resume, He's looking for your availability. Enoch wasn't a public figure. He was faithful in secret. And because of that, God honored him forever. Wouldn't you want to finish your life like that? Not with applause from the world, but with a smile from heaven? Today, you can begin that journey. You can be the Enoch of your generation. The one who dares to live differently. The one who refuses to blend in. The one who leaves a legacy of light. The one who walks with God, while everyone else walks away. Thank you for staying until the end. If this message stirred your soul, don't keep it to yourself, share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Leave us a comment. Tell us what spoke to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because every day, we bring new stories from the Bible that awaken, inspire, and transform. And if you haven't yet watched our previous episode, where we explore the prophecy of Nahum and God's judgment over Nineveh, I'll leave it right here for you. It's a powerful reminder that even the greatest empires fall when they forget God. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep walking. But don't walk alone. Walk with God.